Welcome to Vialet Studio, where Vialet and her guests share stories of their passions, inspirations, and spiritual journeys. Vialet creates a sacred and fun space for individuals to be able to share information about themselves, their work, and their community. We are so happy you have joined us today. Let's get started with your host, the magical creator of Discover Your Spiritual Gifts, Vialet. Vialet Rain.
Welcome to Vialet Studio. I'm so excited today. I have Phoenix Lefae, and I'm going to be really careful with this title because I want to change the last word. I don't know what it is. I'm sure you get that a lot. It's what is remembered lives, and I want to say lives, and it's like, no, it's lives. What is remembered lives. Her beautiful book that is out, and you can tell I've really been reading it. It's tabbed and all the beautiful things. Phoenix, share a little bit about you, your story, your journey, and what brought you to write this book.
Yeah, so I've been practicing witchcraft for close to 30 years, and you know, I'm a constant learner. Developing our spirit and working on our spirituality is our life process, right? So I've had the opportunity to dabble, I suppose is the word, in different traditions and try different things on, and it's all part of my spiritual process, which I think a lot of people can relate to. You never finish that work. But I've been leading these workshops for about a decade now that I call goddess gatherings. Every month we used to do this in person, and hopefully we'll get back to that someday. But this year we've been doing them all on Zoom. But we pick a different goddess from a different region of the world, and I do a little bit of lecture, a little bit of teaching, and then we transition into a ritual. And we do a ritual to honor that goddess, to connect to her energy in a way that's not so cerebral. And my partner actually jokes that it's like tea time with the goddess, and he thought I should write a book called Tea Time with the Goddess. And so that actually is where the inspiration for this book came from, was really from my partner saying, you've been doing these classes for 10 years. You could write a book about the classes that you've been doing. And so I remember distinctly the moment that this happened. I was in the shower, of course, and I was thinking, you know, in my spiritual tradition, in one of my spiritual traditions, when someone dies, we say, oh, what is remembered lives. Because there is this belief that if we continue to tell their stories, if we continue to talk about them, then their spirit lives on. Their body may not, but their spirit does. And I had this epiphany. What if it's not just humans that need to be remembered? What if it's also gods and spiritual allies and fae beings and spirits of the land? What if they also need to be remembered? And so I pitched that idea to the publisher, and they said, we love it. And there you go, a book was born.
Yeah. I love it. And your book is very, very beautiful. And I love
thank you.
how you introduce it. I know on our other show we talked about, and I think it's important to do, how words can be different for different people and how we address ourselves, because you say witchcraft and there are a few people out there that go, right? Because there's a lot of fear that's been created by society, I believe, and religious leaders, that people may not understand what that looks like. And we talked about magician and wizard and, you know, all those words and how we use them. Talk to us a little bit for those people listening to have an understanding of what witchcraft is to you.
Yeah. And I will fully admit to you that, especially in my teen years, people being freaked out by me identifying as witch, I did take some enjoyment out of that. It was a little bit of mainstream society, I'm a witch, how do you like that? You know, there was definitely some of that. Maybe there's still a little bit of that. I still have that little rebelliousness inside me. But really, witchcraft looks different to everyone that calls themselves a witch. But I think at its essence, the things we all have in common is personal power. We're looking to fill our cups and figure out who we are. And we're looking to have relationship with something bigger than ourselves. So that could be God, that could be goddess, it could be lots of deities, or it could be the land. And that's a thing you find a lot in common with different witches too, is reverence of our earth, reverence of the planet, and wanting to take care of that because it's all, it's the only one we've got,
Right.
at least at this point, So yeah, witchcraft can look a lot of different ways depending on the person that is using that title. But I do think spiritual growth and reverence of the land are some things that all witches have in common.
Yeah, that connection. And spiritual people have in common, right? Of
Yep.
connecting to the land and the trees and the beings that protect her and hold space for her, right?
Absolutely.
I connect to the land, right? I connect to what I call fairies. You call them fae, elementals. It's just words, but it's the same energies, right? If we look at it. Explain to us your definition of fae and how you see fae, because I love your perspective on it.
Yeah. So I joke about this. The only thing I remember from 8th grade science is kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species, like that little tree of how science identifies beings. And I think of the fae as the same. So fae is the kingdom. It's the big title. And then underneath that big title are all these different beings. What's fascinating about fae or fairies or elementals is virtually every culture on the planet has a relationship to these unseen beings. And the more modern and technological a culture gets, the more they divorce themselves from that energy. But you can find folklore. Folklore is, there's information in folklore. There's information in old wives' tales. At South Africa, Hawaii, Ireland, Japan, they all have these nature spirits that they either are afraid of or they work with. And that is what fae is. They have lots of different subcategories. There's lots of different kinds of beings, but they're all over our planet. And they can either be helpful or maybe not so helpful, depending on what kind of being they are and their motivations, much like humans.
Right? There's all of that. Well, at my center, someday I hope you get to come and see and you visit Denver. But at my center, I have a fairy classroom. And what's so funny about the fairy classroom is I have teachers that hesitate to teach in there because the fairies interrupt their classes. And I just think it's hysterically funny because I look at them and go, what are you doing to the fairies that they want to do that to you, right? I love the fairies. So the fairies, I invite them to come and be part of it and play with us. But other people have these hesitations, and it's like, it's a little bit about you and what that hesitation. But yes, they're playful. They'll move your keys. They'll move stuff around. They'll hide stuff from you. They're playing with you. So I love talking to those energies, and we have homes and doors and stuff hidden throughout the center, and so they're definitely there everywhere. And so I had a holiday fairy play shop on Saturday where we made fairy dust and did a fairy ornament and fairy spray, and people came and played with the fairies. And during the holidays, it's always so stressful. So it's nice to have a few hours where you can unplug and do something really, really fun. So it was a really fun day.
Lovely.
So I love that. So share with us, what are some of your favorite deities that you like to work with? So what's some of your favorite ones that come to mind?
That's such a hard question. So I am a polytheist, right? I believe there are many gods. There are lots of ways to connect to the divine. And in my personal practice, there are 5 deities that I work with on a daily basis. So they have altars in my home. I give them offerings. I burn incense. I might say prayers or go and sit in meditation with them, depending on what's going on in my day or my life at that moment, because they're very different. So the 5 that I work with on a daily basis are Bridget, Thor, Morgan Le Fay, Baba Yaga, and Dionysus. And recently Persephone's been sneaking in and poking me, so I don't know what that's about, but I've recently set up an altar for Persephone just to see why. I'm not so sure that I need another relationship right now. My life is very full. But I'm, I'm open, I'm exploring that. So yeah. But I don't even know, like those are the ones that I work with because I felt like an intimate connection with those spirits. But there are lots more that I have, like I refer to them as my B team, to be a little cheeky. There are other gods or goddesses like Aphrodite that I do work with. Like I'll call on her if one of my clients needs help with love, self-love, healing, those types of energies. So she's not someone I work with on a daily basis, but she's someone I love and have a good relationship with,
So the 5 that you work with, what do they bring to your life? Like, how do you decide, Bridget, today I need this connection for this? How are they different for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me, I'm a polytheist. All those deities are from different traditions, different pantheons, and they're very different energetically. And not everyone works that way. So, I'm kind of an outlier in that regard. But because I have very different energies, and for example, Bridget, I've had relationship with since I was a child. I didn't know when I was young that's what was happening or that's who was showing up in my life. It was many years later that I could look back and go, oh, it all makes so much sense now. But because I've developed these relationships, I kind of know when I need something from that specific entity. So it's much like your friends. If you look at your circle of friends, when you need emotional support, you might go to one specific person. When you need a kick in the ass, you might go to a different person. And so when you develop a relationship with different deities, it's kind of the same thing. You get used to their vibe and you start to know, okay, I need a kick in the butt. I'm going to go talk to Thor today. Or I need to figure this situation out. I feel really stuck. I'm going to go talk to Baba Yaga today. So it's because I've developed relationship that I kind of know who to go to with a certain issue.
Well, it's interesting. I've always had, I want to say connection because that sounds like the right word, with Thor. There's something about that energy, that being that, and I teach a warriors class and we work with runes and we really connect to the Vikings and Thor and all that mythology that goes around all of that. So very strong energy, but definitely have a connection to that being. Not that I've built an altar and spent time, but now you're encouraging me to want to do that.
What's funny is for years, I was not interested in working with male deity because I came to this path because I was called by the goddess, whatever that might mean. But I definitely wanted more female archetypes. I feel like there's enough male energy in the world. I really wanted more feminine. So I was not interested in working with male gods. I knew lots of stories. I knew, I'd been in different rituals where male gods had been called, but it wasn't for me. And then all of a sudden, Thor started showing up when I was doing ancestry work. Actually, I was learning about my lineage. And just all these synchronicities around Thor. He would show up in meditations and dreams. And I was like, no. Of all the male deities, like this burly dude coming into my world, I was not about it. But it happened. Like I figured out why he was showing up for me. And so it's stuck. We're together now.
I love that. Well, there's some truth around. Sometimes we don't pick them, they pick us, and they keep coming in, right? Almost shoving us sometimes, like, hello, are you paying attention? This is really important. So I love that. So now you've got me interested in doing some of that and connecting to him. I think that would be
nice.
Awesome. I know in our last conversation, we talked about giving offerings to Fae and setting altars. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I talk about the fairies and all that, and I know my community is always asking me, how do I call them in? How can I connect with them? What does an offering look like? Can you share with us from your perspective how people can connect, what an altar might look like, where you would place it, what offering might be there?
Yeah, actually, I'm going to take you on a little trip.
All right, I love trips.
I'm going to turn my camera around and show you my Bridget altar. So here is just a bookshelf. And here I have an art print Tempest Zakoff is the artist of that picture. I have a little statue. See, I've got a little box of matches and some sage, a chalice, a little cup of whiskey. You know, it's just a bookshelf. It's just an empty shelf that I've put things on.
I love it.
Field trip over. So, so, you know, an altar doesn't have to be something huge and elaborate. It can be if you have the space and the ability. Sure, why not? But if you just have an image and a candle and a cup where you can leave offerings, that's all you need for an altar. And ideally, an offering means something, you know? So if it's for a god, you, excuse me, you might want to do some research and find out, well, what might that deity be interested in? I leave whiskey for Bridget, Irish whiskey, because Ireland whiskey is a thing, right? For other deities, like Baba Yaga, for example, she's Slavic, so I give her vodka. And it doesn't have to always be booze. That's just one of the things that happens here. I have a Dionysus altar, and I will burn incense at his altar. I do that pretty much every day. It's just an incense that is cedar. So in some of the mythology, he's connected to the cedar tree. So I burn cedar incense as an offering to him.
Oh, I love that.
So it's you have to do a little research and find out what might this deity be interested in. But for the Fae, it's good to look at your world where you live, you know. So I think I mentioned this when we chatted before, but where I live, Gravenstein apples are a thing. They only grow here. They're natural to this region. So I'll often leave Gravenstein apples during apple season out for the Fae. And the thing that I have to do that makes some folks feel weird and a little goofy and silly is I speak out loud. So, you know, and sometimes I do this in my front yard where my neighbors can see me. So you have to be willing to be a little weird. But I will say, hello, beautiful beings of this land. Hello, beautiful beings that live in my yard. This is a gift for you from my heart. You don't have to say anything perfect. You just have to speak from your heart. And so that's a lot of it too. Trusting your intuition, trusting your gut, learning about the land you live on or that specific entity you want to work with, and giving them things that they would be interested in.
I love that. I love that. You know, we all learn along the way. When I first started connecting to fairies and I would make fairy dust, I would put glitter in it because glitter is really sparkly. And as you do research and learn, glitter is probably not the best thing to give because it doesn't biodegrade. It's not good for the land. There's lots of other things. So it's like, okay, what can I do? And so now I do colored sugar. It's sparkly, but it biodegrades and it melts.
What a great idea.
And so I go to the cake baking aisle and I buy all these really pretty candy sugars that sparkle and that are shapes of mermaids and unicorns, and I find fun ones to make my fairy dust with. It brings in that playful, fun energy, but doesn't hurt the land, isn't hard on it, but it's very shiny and playful to do. So, you know, we all learn along the way. So now people are like, oh, we're not doing glitter. And I'm like, I feel really bad because I don't think that's really good for the land or what we're giving. So we have to think a little bit about what we do. So
absolutely,
it's just a real fun process. So I love your idea of an altar and setting stuff out for them to have. I think that's an amazing thing to be able to do. And I love that you do goddess. I've been trying to get my oldest daughter to do goddess circles for a long time, and I keep holding hope. Hope, because she's a reader and loves mythology and loves getting into all this, loves researching them, and loves doing that. I know you talk about in your book, for those that pick up the book, she talks about these different deities and gives rituals that you can do to help connect with them, which I found amazing, as you can see, like all my little tabs. I think it's a great way. I love rituals, and not everyone understands. So what's a ritual to you? If somebody was to ask you, what is a ritual to you? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, a ritual, like at its bare essence, is just a pause and recognizing that the moment you're having is sacred. You know, so a ritual could be a long drawn out process where you turn off electric lights and light candles and burn incense and chant or sing or meditate. Or a ritual could be while you're washing the dishes, taking some deep breaths and praying, you know. So ritual is just, this moment is sacred. And we all do ritual in our lives all the time. We just might not be cognizant of it, or we might not use that word, but you know, we all, like taking a long luxurious bath, practicing self-care, cuddling on the couch with a child. Those are all rituals. You're in a sacred moment. Yeah.
I really love that. I love that piece of it. And I'm going to give my daughter your book for Christmas.
Oh, nice.
I think it will be awesome for her, because I really keep encouraging her, because I think a goddess circle would be really amazing. And it keeps calling to her, and she keeps going, so mom keeps kind of trying to influence a little bit.
Nice. Yeah. You know, and that's how it started for me, is I love mythology. And one of my girlfriends would say, oh, this goddess came across my path, and I would spill out her story. I would know her story just because I'd been voraciously learning about mythology for most of my life. And she said, you know so much about all these different gods, you should do some classes. And the goddess gatherings were born. I started doing classes, and 10 years later, I'm still doing it. So yeah, I think it sounds like she's headed in that direction. It's exciting.
I think it is too. And for those listening, if you heard, she's doing them virtually, so you can connect in right now. And I think, like all of us as spiritual leaders are trying to figure out, when COVID's over, how do we go back to our in-person, because we love it, but how do we still stay connected to the community that we've built online that are all over the world? Like, how are we going to keep that going and have that connection? And I don't know about you, but I'm playing with lots of ideas in my head. How do I do some online, and how do I do some in person, and do that? Because it's amazing when you pull people in. Phoenix has a store called Milk and Honey in California. Talk to us a little bit about your store, because I want to come and visit someday. It sounds really amazing.
Yeah, so Milk and Honey has been a part of the town I'm in Sebastopol, California, for 25 years. So it's been like a staple of the spiritual community here for a really long time. I was blessed about 5.5 years ago to take over stewardship of the shop, and it really does feel like that. Like I am a steward of this place. I'm not the owner. I'm just there to help direct the ship for a while. So it's, you know, it's a beautiful esoteric shop. We have lots of jewelry, and a whole middle of our store is filled with crystals and stones, and we have ritual supplies and tarot cards and books and incense, all the things you need for a spiritual life. And we do classes and workshops, and we have readers typically, but all of that is happening virtually because we can't do any face-to-face stuff right now, but we'll return to that at some point. And we do have a community altar and a lending library. So, we want to make sure that no matter what your financial situation might be, you can still come in and have access to community, right? So, people come in and write prayers and burn candles on our community altar. And we have, like I said, the lending library where people can leave a book or take a book or borrow a book or whatever. So
I love that. I love that. And last time we talked, you even said if somebody had a prayer request, they could send you, and you guys will place it on the altar for somebody.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be there to do that. And I
Yeah.
love that idea too. I think that's really beautiful. Really beautiful.
Yeah, it's important to me to be accessible, because you never know. There's been times in my life where I wouldn't have been able to afford to buy a candle. And so I want to make sure that we're accessible to the wide range of folks in all different economic situations. Yeah.
Yeah, so they have a place to go.
Yeah.
I think for most of us, we're in a place of service of some sort and trying to find ways to help our communities and those people that really need us. I think that's important, right?
Absolutely.
Well, I have enjoyed our conversation, and we'll put all this information here so that you can check in, find out more. You can pick up the book at the store. We do have it in stock there. I am carrying it in the store. So please stop by and pick it up. And Phoenix, if you're ever in Denver, if you ever travel this way, we would love for you to stop by and see the shop and be able to connect in person. I think that would be amazing. And if I ever get out your way, my brother lives in Eureka. And so he's in the north part of California. And so if I ever get out that way for a visit, I'll try my very best. I'd love to come and see your shop.
Yeah, please do. That would be awesome.
So yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for watching today. Thank you for following us on YouTube. We hope to see you really soon at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.
Thank you for joining us. To find out more about Vialet and how she can help you discover your spiritual gifts, head over to discoveryourspiritualgifts.com and on YouTube at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. You can also send a personal message to Vialet through email, violet@discoveryourspiritualgifts.com. Until next time, remember, we are meant to have abundant and joyful lives. We hope to see you really soon at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.
Discover connection, awaken sacredness, become empowered. Come experience the difference at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.